All journeys begin with the first step. How many times have you heard me say that before? In Illustrator, the first step is trying to examine exactly what Adobe Illustrator is. What type of app is it? Well, it's resolution independent. We're going to talk about that, how you can design things in Illustrator, and once they're done, actually do anything you want with them. Make them bigger, make them smaller, doesn't matter. But we're going to compare it to its sister in the industry, Photoshop. Two very different programs in what they do, but they do work well together. We're going to talk about controlling Illustrator through preferences, one of my favorite areas. Aesthetics and efficiency are the two areas. Andy, I don't really like the way the interface looks. Can I change that? Well, actually you can. And I don't like the way my fonts look in the pull-down menus. Well, you can change that too. What about making the program go faster? You can do that. We'll talk about that. We're going to talk about the user interface. It has changed a little bit. We'll talk about how it has changed so we can navigate. We're going to look at the control panel. That's a place you're going to be spending a lot of time, actually. And we're going to finish up with generating our own user-defined workspaces. This chapter is about efficiency. It's about getting to know the program so we can get things done quickly, have more time for creativity. Well, it's a win-win situation. So let's get started. The first step.
Let's begin getting into this, what I consider to be an amazing application. And let's talk about some of the fundamental things about Adobe Illustrator. Now, first off, Adobe Illustrator is probably older than a lot of people that are listening to me right now. It came out in 1987, believe it or not. It was Aldous Illustrator. It has really grown from those beginning days. Bought by Adobe. Adobe Illustrator is what we call it now. We're currently at CC, which is kind of cool, Creative Cloud. We're here to talk about fundamental differences. Many times at university, I'll have a student come up to me and they'll say, well, Professor, I've got Adobe Photoshop and I love it. I use it all the time. And why do I need Adobe Illustrator? Because you're showing me this cat here. And, you know, I'm pretty good. I could paint that in Adobe Photoshop. I wouldn't disagree with that. I could make this in Adobe Photoshop. The fundamental difference between something done and created digitally, like with a digital camera, and opened in Photoshop, and something done in Illustrator is how it's built. Now, I have two things open, Gato, El Gato, the cat, and Flowers, PSD. If you want to check these out, they are in your working folder. That's fine. But what I want to talk about is what's the difference between them. Now, this is a photograph taken with my digital camera. It is open in Adobe Illustrator, and that's fine. But I think most of us know this, but I'm going to do it anyway. If I come up and pick up my zoom tool and begin zooming in on this area right here, now this is a high-res image, so it'll take a bit, but eventually we begin to see the actual breakdown of the image itself. We begin to see the pixels that make this image up. Now, whether you know this or not, and I think you do, an image that's a photograph is built up and it's resolution dependent. The number of pixels in a linear inch determine its quality. What I like to say is photographs will live and they will die on their resolution. If I have an image with a resolution of 72, it'll be fine in PowerPoint. It'll be fine on the internet in a PDF document, but it ain't going to work if I want to print it. If it's 300, it'll work to print, but it wouldn't really be that good if you're going out to the internet. So resolution is a very important part. It's bricks. Now, eventually, because it looks like a flower again here, eventually when we begin lowering the size of an image down in a program like Illustrator or Photoshop, and it's resolution dependent, our eyes lose the ability to resolve the image. Resolution is about resolving. Eventually, our eyes can no longer resolve the little tiny bricks. And what happens is color memory and color shape in our heads take over and we see a flower. But in reality, that thing is nothing but a bunch of square bricks, pixels. Now, if we go back to Elgato here, this was drawn with a pen tool. Now, it's not really that complicated of a shape. If I come up here to the word view, there's an option called outline. Now, that won't work with a photograph because the photograph's not vector. But if I click that, you will see the outline that the pen tool made to draw it, and then it was filled with colors and it became the cat. Now, the shortcut for going from outline to regular preview is Command Y. That's Command Y on a Macintosh or Control Y in Windows. Either way, it's going to work. Same keys, different names. The difference, and again, I think you know this. If you don't, you're going to find it out. That cat, I can do anything I want with that cat. I can blow him up to the size of the moon, and he will look fine sitting on the moon if I could get him up there. But I don't have that problem with resolution because he's vector. He is resolution independent. So if I come up and pick up my zoom tool again and begin zooming, it doesn't matter how big I make this thing, because what happens is this. Images in Adobe Illustrator are created using vector. That's math. Now, to be honest with you, I wouldn't want to do the math myself. That would be really hard. And if you had to do it, very few people would use Adobe Illustrator. The pen tools in that create mathematical shapes. As they change size, the math is redrawing the shape, which makes them resolution independent. Now, here's another thing to consider. If you're working with a photograph, you add twice as many bricks to that wall in a sense. You're increasing the number of pixels. You're going to make that file huge. It's going to be more than double its size. If I decide to make this guy bigger, appreciably it's not going to change the size of the file, because by making the file bigger, I'm just simply changing the math to achieve that goal. Adobe Illustrator is resolution independent. Adobe Photoshop is resolution dependent. So Illustrator, logos, clip art. I do all my logos in Illustrator because I can then take that logo and put it on a business card or put it on a billboard, and it won't make any difference. I use Photoshop for the other stuff. Well, for photographs. And I love both programs, but both live in different worlds. Resolution dependence, that's Photoshop, and resolution independence, that's Adobe Illustrator. If you've ever taken a class from me, either through Infinite Skills or maybe when I'm out on the road somewhere on the planet, you know one thing about me and programs, and that's preferences and how much I like them. Preferences, to me, customize the program to your workflow. They can make you more efficient. They can make the program, based on your hardware, actually go faster. There's a lot of things that preferences do. Now, to me, preferences are not just set them and forget them. There are some preferences that actually you will change based on what you're doing. Let's do this. I am in Adobe Illustrator. Go up to the word File and go to New. Let's go into Profile. We'll talk more about this stuff later. But we'll go into Profile and go into, say, Web. I'm going to Size, just to open up a new document. It really doesn't matter. Click OK. Incidentally, when you are working in Preferences, you don't have to have anything open anyway. I just want to show you a couple of things as an example of how some of these preferences work. So what I'm going to do is pick up over here my rectangle tool, and I'm going to draw, surprisingly enough, a rectangle. Let me come over here and let me give that a color so we can see it just a little bit better. Let me collapse that back out. Again, we'll talk more about this stuff later. And, well, I can draw rectangles or squares all day long. I don't think this is anything surprising to anybody. Let me come over here and change to the rounded rectangle, and again, do one or two more. Isn't this exciting? Bored yet? Okay. Once I have objects drawn in Adobe Illustrator, I can go to my Move tool right here, and I can, well, select them and move them. Drag it around all day long. But, I think you know this, you can use your arrow keys. Now, if I use my arrow keys by default, I'm moving 1 pixel at a time. Up, down, left, or right. If I want to go faster, I can use the Shift key and go 10 times faster using the arrow keys. Again, most of you probably know that. There's not an Adobe product that doesn't do that. So it's kind of nice to know. Now let's get into preferences, since we got a couple of things on the screen that we've played around with. If you're working in Windows, go to the word Edit. If you're on a Mac, go to Illustrator and go to Preferences, General Preferences. The default, which I like, is Control-K, and that's Control-K in Windows and Command-K on a Mac. Look at these three right here. Keyboard increment, constrain angle, and corner radius. Now, how many have ever gone in and used the arrow keys to move an object in Adobe Illustrator, but that 1 pixel is too much? You go right arrow one time and it's too far to the right. You go left, it's too far to the left. 1 pixel is actually too much. This is what I do. I come in here and type in a period right in front of the 1, and that makes my keyboard increment when I move it with the arrow keys 1/10 of a pixel. If I hold the shift key down, then I'm going 1 pixel at a time. That's what I do. Down here is constrain angle. I'm going to show you this one by putting in, say, 20%. Now we'll leave the corner radius alone. But when I drew the rounded rectangle, it was using 12 points. You can change that as a default if you want to. Let me click OK. Now you will notice if I pick up one of these pieces and begin moving it with my arrow keys, you can notice it's moving. Now it's moving it 1/10 of a pixel at a time, but notice very carefully how it's moving it. It's moving it at a 20-degree angle. Not left and right. That's constrain angle. Watch when I draw again. It's cool. You say, why would I want to do that? There are a lot of reasons why you might want to do this. What if I'm creating a brick wall in a herringbone pattern and I need an angle? Or I need whatever I'm doing in terms of logos or whatever, I need angles. Why not, instead of trying to figure out what the 20-degree is or changing it through the rotate tool, why not go into preferences and change it there? When you're done, change it back. So you can control minutely the precision of the tools with your keyboard increment, and you can choose the constrain angle, and you can choose the defaults on things like the rounded rectangle if you want to. That to me is control. Now let's go back. I'm going to press Control K, Command K on a Mac. That's the shortcut. I'm going to take constrain back to 0. And since we want to work with defaults during these lessons, I'm going to take that back to just 1. I usually do without even thinking. My default is 0.1 on that. Now we won't go through all of the preferences now because some of them won't really make as much sense to you until we're actually working on something. I mean, you've got things like tooltips right here. Precise cursors. Some of the tools you have, like your magic wand tool, when you use it, looks like when you're using it a magic wand. Well, let me show you that too. Let me get out of here for a second. Click OK. Pick up the magic wand tool. And, well, it looks like a magic wand. If I go back into, and I'll use the shortcut, Preferences, and turn on Precise Cursors and click OK again, I get a precise cursor. Now let me turn that back off again and show you something else here. Let me turn that off. Sometimes I want a precise cursor and sometimes I don't. What I do is, instead of changing the preference, is simply press the cap lock key. When you do, just like in Photoshop, just like in InDesign, it will change all your tools to precision temporarily, and if you press cap lock again, it will take them back again. So that's a nice preference. But if you want to do it on and off, it's best to use the cap lock key. The only place the cap lock key won't work, and this is obvious, is if you're working with the type tool. Cap lock will be cap locks for capitals. Let's go back into our preferences. Okay, what's left in here? Let me show you this one right here. Scale, strokes, and effects. Now it's off right now. So if we get back out of here for a second, this item, let me actually do this. Let me give that a little bit. Well, let me do this first. Control A, and that's Command A on a Mac, Control A in Windows, and delete everything. Okay. Then I'm going to come over here and pick up my rectangle tool again and draw a rectangle. Let me give that a little bit of a lighter color so we can see it does indeed have a stroke. It's right there. It's very thin, but it has a stroke. If I come over here and pick up my Move tool and begin changing it, well, the stroke stays the same. It doesn't get any bigger. If there were effects on it, they would stay the same. They don't get bigger or smaller. But if I go back in, shortcut-wise, Preferences, and turn this one on. Now, by default, it isn't on. I come back to OK, take that same box, and make it bigger. Watch what happens. The stroke or the effects are scaled with it. Now, most of the time, I typically don't like that on because I want that stroke to be defined as what it was. But there are times when I'm resizing something that I do want everything to kind of change with the resize, and I go back and I change that one. Let me go ahead and Control or Command K and get back in, and let's, well, for now, we'll turn that one back off again. Now, over here, we're going to skip some things, but let me show you this. Welcome to the world of the cloud. CC stands for Creative Cloud, Illustrator Creative Cloud. One of the things I like about it is the ability to sync multiple systems. I use Illustrator on this system. It's a Mac. I've got a Windows system, and I have a laptop that's a Mac. All three have Illustrator. When I change preferences, presets, whatever I want here, and I sync, it will sync to all of my devices. It's pretty neat, actually, when you think about it, and you can turn on or off what you want it to sync. Now, like I said, we'll skip some stuff here. Let's go down to units. Now, the default is pixels. I don't use pixels unless I'm working on the internet. I use pica for almost everything, and I use centimeters for everything else. Pica is really good for output to print. It's a universal measuring system. It's not North American. It's not European. Centimeters and inches are obviously like the United States as opposed to everybody else. Whatever you're comfortable with is fine. But if you would like to change it permanently for new documents that you open, then you would change it here. Now, you have another option down here I'll mention quick, and that is identify objects by the name or their XML ID. Objects like SVGs can have XML IDs, and that ID is a name. As a designer, programmer, I give the object so I can control it in something like ActionScript. If you want to, you can identify it by its XML. Most cases, you're probably going to leave that at object name. Let's go down to plugins and scratch disks. Photoshop has something like, well, it has as many scratch disks as you want to use. Illustrator has one additional right here, but what does that do? Well, when you click, it will list any hard drives that you have. If you assign a secondary hard drive, you're dividing the load of working on images between the two hard drives, and your system will run faster. Okay, it is just really a time-saving thing. But if you've got very slow hard drives, it could actually slow you down. So you want Ultra USBs, you want like FireWire 800s, whatever. If you've got one like that, use it. Don't use network drives, they're too slow. But it can actually speed things up for you, and it will give you one. Let's look at one more. User interface. Now this to me, and this came out in the previous version, begins to take the kind of like the emphasis off of the interface and more on what you're working on by changing, darkening, or lightening it to the way you want it to be. So if I come up here, it says medium dark, I can go into light. It's kind of like the old Illustrator, isn't it? We can go way, 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 way dark if you want to, or you can control it right here just by moving the slider. Now I'm going to take that back to medium dark, which is the default. In addition to the interface, you can tell it to collapse the panels when they're open, when another one is open, or open documents as tabs. The tabs are up here. I like that, so I leave that one on. Preferences, in my opinion, are designed for two very important things. To make the program yours, to personalize it to what you want to do, and to make it run faster for you. But remember, you don't just set a lot of these and forget them. And we will talk about most of the others as we get into some subjects where they make sense. Let's get out of here, and let's move on. You know what? We're going to be spending a whole lot of time right in this area right here, the Adobe Illustrator interface. It has changed slightly since the previous version. So let's take a quick look around the interface and what we can do with it. Now I have a document open. It's not really necessary, but it gives us something to look at. At the top, we have, of course, our pull-down menus. All programs have pull-down menus. The pull-down menus in Illustrator have literally hundreds of things. Now, some items will have shortcuts, which is nice. That makes it easier for you to get to it. And some items have a little triangle, and that triangle means that there are more items underneath that pull-down. Now, most of us know what to do here. I think all of us do. You want something, you come over, you click on it. You don't want it, you come out here somewhere, you click, it goes away. The pull-down menus, quite a few of them in Adobe Illustrator. The next area down right here, this area, number one has buttons to control maximizing and minimizing. This button right here will open Bridge, and it's kind of a nice feature because it allows you to organize your images, but that's what that will do. It will open up Bridge. This one right here, if you have multiple images open, will allow you to organize the images in different ways. So if you're kind of wanting to look at a couple of different images and you want to see them maybe side by side or whatever, you can use that option. Way over here is Workspaces. Now we are in the Essentials workspace. And Essentials, of course, is just essential elements for Adobe Illustrator. But you have things like printing and proofing. And notice it does change what's going on over here. Let's go back to Essentials. You have a search area here. The next line down is Options. Now these options are controlled primarily by what you're doing. If you look at what's up here now, and say I change into my artboard tool over here, watch what happens. Well, what's up there changes to configure or allow me to configure the tool based on the one I'm using. So that will change. Over here, this button will always be there. If you click it, it's got a whole bunch of stuff in it. Now that's the possible things that can appear on the options bar. Let's say, for the sake of argument, that we never want to see document setup or preferences here. So if we come over here and we click Document, turn it off, they'll be gone. Well, it gives you more room for other things. If we turn it back on, they come back on again. So that's what that area is here. Let's come way over here. Now here's the tools. Lots of different tools. If you click on a tool, it will darken, meaning it's highlighted. It also tells you again the tool down here if you want to look at it. Some tools do have a little triangle over here in the lower right-hand corner, and that means there are more tools underneath if you click and hold. Now here's a cool feature. If you go to the type tool, say, there's a lot of type tools, even a new one called Touch Type down here. If you want to get to these tools, you can use the shortcut. Press the letter T. The letter V takes you, say, for example, to the Move tool, T to the Type tool. Each one has their own shortcut. But if I click and hold on it again, there's a lot of tools underneath here. If I'm using the Type tool a lot and I want to get to these tools, if I click this button right here, see it on the end? It tears out that tool set and allows me to position it somewhere to make it easier for me to get to them. And I can have as many of those torn out as I want to, just a quicker way to get to what you want. Now you want to get rid of that, go ahead and click it right here. Down here we have, and if I was in Photoshop, that would be the foreground and background color. This is the fill color, and that's the stroke color. Objects are composed of fills and or strokes. You have buttons down here to change that into a gradient or to turn it off. You have buttons down here that can help me change how I draw. We'll talk about that when we get into drawing. And this one changes our screen mode, the way we look up here. Finally, over here, of course, you have the panels. Now, the panels are controlled primarily by your workspace. Now, if I change to a different workspace, they will change. But the default in Essentials is that they are collapsed over here. I don't like that. I'm probably old school. I'm happier when I can see them. Now, I am sacrificing space if I do that. But if I click this button right here, it will expand them out for me. And I have less room here. I understand that. But I do like having them open. That's my way of working. Down here at the bottom on the left, you have a new button for syncing. Now, if I click that button, it will ask me if I want to sync. We talked about sync preferences in the previous lesson. So if I click that button, it would perform a sync to the cloud of anything I've changed in things like, well, swatches, whatever I've chosen. So you can click that to sync. This button allows me to change the view size, and it defaults to fit on screen. If we do have more than one artboard, and we will later on, this button allows me to select the artboard. This button again tells me I'm on the type tool. But if I select here and go into show, what I can do is say, I don't want the tool. I know what tool I'm on. Give me the name of my artboard. Give me the current date and time, the number of undos, or even the document color profile. We'll leave it on the default for now. And there you go. That's the basic interface to this program. It can be massaged. It can be changed any way you want it to be to fit your particular personality. In the previous lesson, we talked about the interface, took a quick spin around it. Obviously, we're going to spend more time on each one of these areas as we work forward. And what I'd like to do is spend a minute or two more on this area right here, the options area, because that's an important area. It's going to be your friend. Number one, like anything else in Adobe Illustrator, it's movable. If I come up here, it's kind of hard to see. There's a little button right there. And if I grab it, I can, if I want to, pull it out and put it someplace else. Now you want to put it back again, grab it, wait for, see that little blue line appear? Let go then. It's letting you know if you let go, I'll put it back for you. Over here on the left, over here, we have, well, if we have something selected. And if we click, it will tell us what we have selected. I've got a path selected. You've got items here for changing, for example, into a different color, directly from here if you want to do that. You have a button here to control the stroke. Now over here, let's pick up a different tool. Don't forget that if I change tools, things change from about here over to here. Some of these areas are what they define as sticky. A lot of the stuff stays there almost no matter what you do. But a lot of the areas over here will change if you're working with type, for example. Let me go back to the Move tool for a second. Notice you will have these orange buttons here and over here. Anytime you see those orange buttons, if you click on one, it opens up a temporary panel. Now, if you go to opacity or you go to stroke, there are options over here to do the same thing. We do have a stroke panel, but this is just another way to get to it. Okay, it's just a quicker way to get to it. And again, if you have something selected, you can change whatever it is based on the options that are up here. For example, if I select everything, let me select the whole thing. This button right here is kind of cool. Click it. Let me move that over just a little. We'll talk more about this later, but it allows you to recolor artwork. If I come over here and begin changing, as you can see, it's actually changing the image based on the colors I choose. It's kind of a lot of fun to work with. And you can actually make changes to an image overall as a group, recolor artwork. It's kind of fun. It's a button right up here. Let's say you don't want align and transform. I mean, you use them, but you use them over here. You want more room. And incidentally, while I'm here and talking about this, you might see up here more or less than I see. Understand that the width of the entire Illustrator window will determine what's up here. If you've got it squeezed into a smaller space, it may have to remove some of these things so it can show you what it has. If it's wider than what I have, you actually might see more. But if you don't want to see something, we already mentioned this, but you click here. I don't need align. I don't use it from up there. I don't need transform, whatever. You can turn them off, which means if there is a lot of stuff up here, it may give you room for other things. Let me go ahead and turn that back on again. Don't forget what you have up here. It's a very important tool. It's your friend as far as I'm concerned, because it can give you a lot of quick help to the features that you need to kind of, get the job done. One more, I think, really essential kind of area in Adobe Illustrator or in Photoshop or in InDesign or whatever is the setup of the workspace itself. Now, I mentioned that we do have workspaces from our friends at Adobe right up here. We have Essentials, and that's where we are right now. You have Painting if you want to do that, and it opens up all the things that Adobe feels are the best things that you need to get the job done in terms of painting. Let's go back to Essentials just for a second. Let's say that we like what's over here, and I'm going to open it up too. I don't like it collapsed. There are things in here that we don't really need. We like them, but we just don't use them that often, and they're just getting in the way of us being efficient. So let's just pretend here. Let's come down here. We have layers and artboards. And let's say artboards is just not something we use a lot. So it's just taking up space. So we drag it. This is one thing you could do. I'm going to grab it right on the tab and drag it out. Now to get rid of it, be easy. Just click here. And that's one less thing for us to worry about. Let's say that we don't work with the cooler. And that's a color system. Actually, it's pretty cool. But for Essentials, we really don't need that either. So we'll get rid of that one. And the color guide, don't want that either. So I'm going to drag that out. Right now I'm kind of just getting rid of things. And you say, okay, why don't we move color someplace else? So I'm going to pull it out first. Now it's a free floating panel. If you want it there in your workspace, go for it. But I want to put it maybe in with these. So what I'm going to do is grab it again and drag it until I see this area right here go transparent blue and let go. And now I have all of those up here. And let's say, since layers is way down here by itself again and nice and lonely, why don't we stick that up here just like that? So we can change the furniture in the room, and we're getting it set up the way we want it to be. But maybe there's a panel that I don't see that I want, because I've gotten rid of some. How about adding some? If you go up to the word window on the pull-down menu, you will notice every single panel that's possible right up here. So let's say, I use Align a lot, and I want the Align panel, or brushes, or whatever, something we don't have. So if we go to Align right here, it'll open it up, and there it is. Now, it also comes with Transform and with Pathfinder. I love Pathfinder. Let's say we like all of those, or maybe we don't want all of them, or maybe we want to do this. Let me drag Pathfinder out, and let me drag a line out. Now, that creates a lot of space. I understand that, are a lot of lost real estate, if you will. I can move them around. I can put them back in if I want to. But let's say I work with Transform in a line a lot, and I don't want to keep tabbing between one or the other, or one or the other. I don't want Pathfinder right now, so I'm going to turn that off. If I grab the Align tab and bring it up here, I'm putting it back inside, which is fine. Well, let me pull it back out again, if I can do it. Oh, incidentally, as you just saw, if you double-click, it collapses it. Now I'm going to grab it again, but this time I'm going to put it under here, and I'm going to push up until I see it go semi-transparent and get that blue line, and now they are, in a sense, grouped together. And let's say I want to leave these floating, but I want to put them over here. Now I'm going to show you something else that I have to do because of the resolution I'm working in. You will notice that my toolbar is double. Okay, the reason is because the resolution I'm working in is too short going this way. But if I click here, I can put them all in a single row. Now it gives me more room, but I lose some of my tools down here because of my resolution. So I'm going to take that back by clicking here. So I've got this stuff over here. I've rearranged the furniture over here, so to speak, and I like this and I want to keep it. But I am still, by definition, in Essentials, a modified Essentials. That's not what I want. So if I click here, one of my options is New Workspace. Now you can also get that under the word Window. If I go New Workspace and call it Andy Space and click OK, I now have Andy Space. You will notice if I go back to Essentials, it doesn't really change. And the reason is because I modified it and it thinks I might want to use it again as Essentials. But if I click Reset Essentials, it will go back to what Adobe thinks is Essentials. If I now go back up here again, there's Andy Space at the top. You can have as many of these as you want. And it goes back now into Andy's Space. Now, anytime you want to control them, again, let's do it from the window this time. Go to Window and go down to Workspace. And there it is. But there's also Reset, New, and Manage. Now, if you go into Manage Workspaces, this one right here is the one I made. And you say, you know what? I was just kind of playing around. I really don't like it. I don't want to rename it. I want to get rid of it. You click here, and of course, it'll warn you. And you say, yeah, I don't want it anymore. It's still here, though. Understand it's still there. And then you click OK, and then it's gone. So you have the ability to create your own workspaces. And don't take that lightly. Really don't. Think it through and look at how you work. Look at your workflow. Look at the panels and things that you use, and set the system up to work for you and not the other way around. We're not working for Illustrator. Illustrator is working for us.